everyone, and thank you for listening to us. My name is Beatriz Mingo, and I'm here to present a project called Statements on Science Policy, which is being run by a bunch of us. This project is in its infancy at the moment, so we're really looking for contributions from all of you. So the aim of this project is to start a discussion on funding and career sustainability. We think that there are some problems in the way that these are working at the moment, and we're looking for inputs from the broader community on how we can tackle these problems, how we can make these work a bit better for all of us. The aim is to lead some sort of statement or letter from A4E to agencies that are responsible for the funding of astronomy research, proposing some structural changes that can benefit all of us. If you're here, you already care about sustainability in astronomy. We know that as a community, we have a larger carbon footprint than the average worker. We're also more aware of this carbon footprint and we take more personal responsibility. But this doesn't change the fact that there are many carbon sources to the sort of work we do. And this project in particular deals with the organizational side of the carbon footprint. So from committee to career structure, we need to make some changes to make this footprint a bit smaller. One of the reasons why we want to do this is because astronomy as a science might not be a priority for others. And if we don't lead the changes ourselves from the inside, we will end up having those changes imposed to us and they might not work very well. We care also about inclusivity and social justice. We want to make astronomy fairer for everyone. And this goes hand in hand to sustainability. If we make changes, we will end up benefiting all of us. Our working infrastructures are also very vulnerable to climate change, so we want to try and restrict climate change also from a professional perspective. It will benefit all of us. So there's all sorts of reasons to care about these changes. And as you all are probably aware, there has been a lot of input and a lot of pressure on individual responsibility. Even from our host institutions, there has been lots of messages, emails, insisting on making lifestyle changes. This is a bit of a distraction. It is very important that we all take responsibility. Of course, there are lots of carbon footprint calculators that you can find out there. You can do the calculation yourself and they will give you completely inconsistent results. However, the changes that we need to make to meet the net zero goals, to slow down the heating of our planet and to hopefully avoid the worst of it, the changes we need are monumental. If you go to these carbon calculators, for example, from the UK government, you can see that the changes on a complete, on a societal level are huge. They are much more important than the ones that we can carry out as a person. What we tend to forget is that us as scientists, as citizens, consumers, and so on, we do have some power to put these bigger changes through. And we're also teachers and communicators. So what we say is very important. It can have an influence on how other people implement these changes. However, we need to be consistent. Us as astronomers, we need to start this change at home in the ways we work and the places we work. This is very important because astronomy, unfortunately, is one of the disciplines that have a highest carbon footprint from traveling. This is very important, at least according to this recent French study based on French research institutions. This obviously can vary for other countries, but it is an uncomfortable truth. We do travel a lot. And again, there has been a lot of emphasis put on travel. This is very important. We need to, to curtail this for a number of reasons, but some of the changes that we need to push through are more fundamental than these. The changes are on a more fundamental level. And as you can see on the plot on the right, some of these proposed changes are not very popular. Things like curtailing the number of flights or restricting who can travel, making buildings more energy efficient. Everybody's on board with this. But when you start talking about adding carbon emissions to selection criteria for project funding, people are a bit more reluctant. And this is understandable, but it's why we have to have these important discussions. We need to start demanding more transparency and more accountability on project funding. Changes to traveling are important because they also affect the way that career structure works. There are some built-in inequalities in the way that we have this carbon footprint. So as you can see on these plots, early career researchers have a smaller carbon footprint than senior researchers. And there is a carbon footprint to scientific visibility. We work in a model that promotes having a larger carbon footprint for promotion, for visibility, for success. So if we don't push some changes through, it will be unavoidable that we will just keep rewarding this kind of behavior and we will disadvantage early career researchers even further. We need to find a model that is more sustainable for us and for the planet. We know now as well that remote collaboration works really well, not just for conferences, but also for scientific work. We know that these remote collaborations, through the technology that we have nowadays, actually help make scientific breakthroughs more likely, according at least to this recent study. And this is something that we are just naturally moving towards, but it's a very slow change. It's something that is happening too slowly, and we need to take things a step further. We need, again, to make some more fundamental questions. So in the current status quo, project funding is allocated in a way that is not very sustainable. There's a lot of emphasis on big and new, and of course we only like new data, big shiny new things. But the rate at which this is being pushed through is not sustainable for our planet. We also are pushing for quick results, quick publications, and there's a lot of emphasis on links to industry without actually considering the impact of these links. So this is also something that we need to review. It's something where we need to ask some important questions. We need to make some changes while staying competitive. The current career structure is also not sustainable because it's based mostly, all the paths to promotion and to stability and to funding rely on all of these goals. There's a lot of pressure for international travel, as we have seen, and there's a lot of pressure for frequent relocation and very short-term contracts. This is also not good for, people wanting to start families and have a life and have some sort of mental health. So all of these questions are really important, and some things that we need to discuss as a community to reach a consensus on. So, as I said, we need to ask some uncomfortable questions. For example, should we slow down the pace of research? How can we do this in a way that doesn't disadvantage some communities, for example, early career researchers, or without driving some generational strife? And how can we do this and stay competitive as scientists and obviously on an international level? Should we start considering things like a carbon cost for project funding? And again, how can we do this without advantaging or disadvantaging some fields with respect to the others and without sacrificing fundamental research? How can we get funding agencies on board with these changes? They are the ones that need to drive the changes. We cannot implement these from the bottom up, and we definitely cannot implement them as individuals. We need to do this as a community. But also on a more fundamental level, how can we better integrate astronomy and society? Because there is a divide there. We need more cross-discipline collaboration, we need closer links to societal questions, and we need a larger role in science communication. We need to have a more of a dialogue with society. We can start making some of these changes already by asking for more transparency and pushing for consistent measurements of environmental impact. We are now thankfully developing tools that will allow us to do this, but this needs to be done at every level, from host institutions to large international consortia. And again, the way we approach this needs to be consensuated. We also need to start changing the mindset on, for example, how we deal with data. We do have vast data sets that are capable of producing groundbreaking science and lots of people that want to work with them, but we should make the funding of these projects attractive. Yes, it's good. It's good to have new data. It's good to have new facilities, but we need to balance things out if we want to still live on this planet in the next 20, 30, 40 years. We also need to optimize some of the existing resources, and this goes from decarbonizing existing structures, optimizing and decentralizing perhaps some of them, but also through things like coding. Like most astronomy produced software is not really done by professional programmers, it's done by astronomers, and it's rather inefficient. So maybe we need to hire dedicated people that know how to do this a bit more optimally, or we need to provide more people we need to provide more time for the people writing this code and more resources so this code can be optimized. So again, these are all just rough ideas. This project is in its infancy, and we really need your input. We need to have a discussion as a community. So please join our discussions during the meeting, and also join our project statement science policy channel on Slack. Thank you very much, everyone.